Check. Test. It's 9 o'clock. Are we ready, girls? Ladies? Oh, girls are younger.
Strike that from the record.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Charlotte County Airport Authority meeting for Thursday, August 19th, 2021. Today's our regular meeting, and we've included also a tentative budget hearing on our agenda. And this meeting is hereby called to order. And if I could remind everybody to turn off or silence your phones, if you could do that for me, I'll do the same. I'll wait for Miss Vanessa to get up here. But we always start off our meeting with an invocation and a pledge of allegiance. And if everybody would like to join me for those two things. And Rob, will you lead it? Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we take this time to praise your holy name. And we just thank you for all that you do here for us at the Airport Authority, the hedge of protection that you provide for our operations, our facilities, and our employees. And we ask now that you grant this board wisdom and guidance as we consider our monthly financial and other issues. And we just once again thank you for the hedge of protection that you provide, and we give you the honor and glory for all our successes. And we ask this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Mr. Rob.
Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson. Miss Amy, roll call, please.
Mr. Andrews.
Here.
Miss Oliver.
Here.
Mr. Carr.
Present.
Mr. Hurston.
Present.
Mr. Parrish.
Here.
Mr. Hansick.
Here.
Miss Coppola.
Here.
Thank you, Miss Amy. All right, at this point, we will ask for citizens' input. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the board? You should state your name for the record, and you're allowed up to 2 minutes unless the time is extended by me. Do we have anybody who would like to speak? All right, I see nobody coming forward. We'll move on. James, additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have none.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We appear to have 4 things on the consent. Meeting minutes of May 20th, June 16th, August 5th, and we have also a self-fueling permit. Board, the chair is open for movement on that.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
As presented. I guess. Is it presented?
Yes, it is.
All right, do I have a second on the consent?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Oliver. All right, we have a first and a second for approval. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. All right, we'll move on to our public hearing for our 2 budgets. Attorney, do we need any type of motion to open that up to the public, or it's open? All right. Does anybody have any comments on the fiscal year 21-22 budget? Jim, would you like to?
I mean, I'll just go through it. There were only minor, if any, changes. We did get a notice from Allegiant, so we added a few more passengers throughout the year, but nothing else significantly changed. You can see operating revenues at 17.4, and Amy, could you scroll down one more? Expenses of 13.3, and we're proposing or estimating about a $4 million gain. There will be, just go to the next slide, kind of breaks it down above the line, below the line. Some capital improvements as well throughout the year that we went over last time. So that is the budget. We have all the details. If anyone wants to talk about anything, Sandy is here to explain, and Heather, how we get to all the numbers. But if not, we just need a motion to approve the tentative budget, and we will present it again next month with the final.
Well, thank you, Mr. Parrish. Do we have any public comment on our fiscal 21-22 budget? Miss Amy? Well, I guess via YouTube we wouldn't have anybody commenting from the internet. Okay. All right. Chair is ready for a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, as treasurer, I'll make the motion to approve our budget for 21-22 as presented.
Thank you.
And
thank you, Commissioner.
And gone through public hearing.
All right, we have a motion for an approval of our 21-22
Mr. Chair, I
budget.
second that.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion passes unanimously. James, I guess we'll move on to the Secretary Treasurer's report.
Sure. Mr. Hansick,
Yeah, we have up on the screen. I have a question. Are we always a month behind on this one?
yes.
Yeah. We can't get our numbers in time.
In time for the board meeting. Gotcha. Okay. What you see up there is basically a summation of a financial review year to date through June 20th. You can see our revenue at we're over our estimated budget by $1.7 million. Expenses, we have a variance of about $87,000 under budget, and we have a variance in the positive of our basically our profit or gain in revenues of $1.8 million, showing us to be in a pretty healthy position. All the detail on this is available on the website under the agenda items. So if you really want to get into the line items, you can find it there. Anybody got any questions? We try to keep it as simple as we can for those that are interested in it.
Yeah, that's a great summary.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Parrish.
Quickly, I'll go through the accounts receivables. As presented, we have a total outstanding of about $16,000. But if you look at the right-hand column with the explanation, a lot of those have been paid since the date of this being produced. So receivables are fairly low.
Can Amy put that up on? Is she capable of putting that?
We don't.
Okay.
No, we don't generally put this in the
Okay.
I mean, we can if you guys would like. Going on to our income statement, it's pretty much just what Commissioner Hansick read off to you. We continue to operate in the black and a little bit ahead of our revenues, and we're staying slightly under our expenses. Keep in mind that we are going into the 2 months that we generally budget for a small loss. So next month you may see a little bit of a loss. In your packets you have May and June. So if you've looked them over and have any questions, I can probably answer those. But both months were really good. March, April, May, June, July are fairly robust months at the airport. August, September tend to be a little slower. And that's when we get everything done that needs to be done around the airport, when we don't have cars crashing. But that's another story. The balance sheet continues to be positive, as you would expect with our financial situation. We are doing fairly well cash-wise, and also we're continuing to increase our with capital improvements, continuing to add to the bottom line of the balance sheet. So the runway is now completed. We're going to be starting another runway, as well as the new General Aviation Center will all be adding to the bottom line in the near future. Those are also things that you'll see being depreciated through the years. So the depreciation goes up as we add more things. Any questions?
Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Parrish.
Oh, looks good.
Kathleen?
No, I said it looks good.
Yes, yes, it does. Good job, staff. All right, we will move on to our committee reports. Punta Gorda City Council, Mr. Hansick.
Yes, we will have one today. I'd like to recognize Mr. Miller is here from the City of Punta Gorda City Council. One thing that he brought up to me, which is kind of interesting, which in effect may have some effect on us, that the city is monitoring with Florida Department of Transportation on discussing the traffic management conditions associated with North Jones Loop Road from 41 to Piper Road, which I think is kind of interesting. I don't know if we have anybody monitoring that or not.
I'm in the focus group that's looking at it, yes.
So I don't know what they can do with it, but
The preliminary idea is a traffic circle at the Jones Loop, Piper Road. I would like a
how about a flyover like Fort Myers has for about 60 million?
my original suggestion was make that a dedicated left with a right-hand turn back onto Jones Loop. And they're looking at the traffic patterns right now, and that may ultimately be the solution. We also have to look at the future of the land inside of Jones Loop as that develops. There will be more traffic on the loop. So traffic circle is the end thing right now in Florida.
I hate them.
Yeah.
I hate them.
People who don't like them.
Sorry.
Okay, well, that's a point of interest that we got to be aware of, that's going on. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
No, we actually tried to fund that study ourselves with CIS money and was turned down because they were doing it, because I would have loved to have led the study.
Obviously have control over insurance.
Commissioner Hansick, that is also on the MPO's radar screen. So the MPO is
So
monitoring.
we got a couple of ways to look at it.
What
Yes.
is their opinion of those circles?
Well, personally, as an engineer, I like Circle because traffic keeps moving. I mean,
Yes, yes.
I think worst thing in the world is getting stuck in a parking lot situation.
In my area, I have the brakes on a lot.
You have to understand that engineers are always going in circles.
Well, that's,
All I know, it's costing me more money in gasoline to avoid them. So,
but James, as an engineer, how do you feel about roundabouts?
If they're correctly sized,
Yes, I
They
agree.
work.
Yeah,
very well.
I agree. And the DOT, we're in the middle of a design out there. It's, let's see, what is it, 74 and 31? Yeah, they have a big circle going on out there, or roundabout. What's that?
It'll be part of your report, I'm sure.
I'm sure. All right, very good. Where are we at, James? Let's see,
Mr. Andrews.
Mr. Andrews, Board of County Commissioners.
Board of County Commissioners. Commissioner Deutsch, would you like to give a little update for me, please?
Yeah,
Thanks for the heads up, Paul.
yeah.
We don't have any, I think, we don't have any official meetings in August. There's only one of us there every single day to sort of keep track of what's going on. However, we're sort of trying to deal with the challenge we're all facing with the uptick in the virus. It tends to be a cloud that's hanging over our heads. We're back to where we're going to encourage people. I'm going to start Monday. I have 30 some odd color-coded masks, so I'm going to start wearing them. I guess it helps someone else. One of the things that we're going to have an incredibly busy September. We've got a lot of activity and things happening at Murdoch Village. As you know, we're going to be making some choices regarding that. And then we've got some events off the top of my head I can share with you. On September 11th and 9/11 Remembrance, there are going to be at least 3 events that I know of at this point, actually 4, but one's sort of private. And I'm only speaking at 2 of them, so that's the good news. But there's going to be a 9/11 remembrance the county is going to be having at the William R. Gaines Jr. Veterans Memorial Park. There will be, if you want to sleep in a little bit, at 10 a.m., the American Legion Post 110 is having a program on Harbor Boulevard. And if you're this side of the bridge and you don't want to cross over, I believe the Military Heritage Museum is also having something at that time. And later in the afternoon, there's a big yacht club event down at Charlotte Harbor Yacht Club, memorializing 9/11. If you want to put some dates on your calendar, I know one you do definitely, but you may want to make note that on October 9th, a Saturday, in cooperation with the DAR and the SAR and a whole bunch of patriotic people in Charlotte County, we will be dedicating a Liberty tree at the William R. Gaines Jr. Veterans Memorial Park. And just as an aside, there's going to be some surprises happening this fall. We literally are very close to breaking ground on a couple major things at the park. And it's been 5 years. As you recall, I was tall, slender, and clean-shaven when this project started. But it's been, and we thank you all for your support and help with that. And last but not least, of real significance, and I know you guys were in it last year and you had some fun, on Saturday, November 6th, the Charlotte County Veterans Council, in conjunction with the 35 veterans organizations in the county, is going to be having the Veterans Day Parade. And we know you folks were involved last year. I understand they have 4 or 5 bands committed, which is amazing. And it's going to take the same route that we did, so we hope that you can participate with us. And we're trying to get the Huey up on a flatbed that's temporarily over at the museum and trying to get that in the parade. And I think we're going to have a submarine and a few other surprises. So, but we're busy. We're going to have an incredibly busy September. I've already been scanning some of the items on the agenda, so I don't know if that helps. Thank you much.
Yeah, thank you very
guys.
much.
Stay safe. Any questions for us at all?
No, it sounds interesting.
Okay, thanks a bunch.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Deutsch and Mr. Andrews. Yes, sir. All right, we'll move on to the Metropolitan Planning Organization, Economic Development. I was actually working off of my my agenda for both agencies or both committees, and I have actually forgot those agendas. But the MPO locally, we had a meeting here a week ago, maybe 2. And our biggest dilemma is we're trying to hire a new executive director.
Yeah.
And we had selected one,
Yeah, I saw that.
And he had to turn it down after accepting it. And so we're back out on the for the look for an MPO director, and we're right in the middle of that process. Other than that, we had a usual meeting here a couple weeks ago. We pretty well follow an agenda similar to ours, and that the biggest issue was the executive director. And I attended an MPOAC meeting in Orlando last week, and we're having the same trouble with the executive director for that group. Actually, the director is paid by the DOT, and they have not given a great director that we had. He hadn't had a raise in years, and so he left. And we're having trouble, hiring anybody at the DOT wages. And so there's discussion of moving that out of the DOT, but it's probably not going to happen. So that was pretty well the biggest item on the agenda for the MPOAC. But next meeting, I promise I'll bring my committee agendas and give you a little bit more information.
Do they have a list of qualifications for the job that you have to check off to
MPO?
apply? Yeah.
For our local MPO?
Yeah.
The Charlotte County HR department puts out the requirements and sends that out, and then if they get in 20 applications, they may eliminate 17 of them. that they feel aren't qualified. And then, so then they give us 3 to review, and then that's our job to hire somebody or vote on those. It's a ranking system.
And the public's invited to the open meetings, correct?
Yes,
Public.
because we handle it, in the sunshine
Yeah.
with a special meeting, typically is the way we've handled it the last couple months. But, yeah, Commissioner Deutsch is also on that committee, so we're right in the middle of that. So that is my reports, and we'll move on to community. Kathleen?
Well, it's still a little quiet out there because of the COVID, but I was invited recently to the Trump Club, which is over here in Punta Gorda. It holds its meeting in Punta Gorda. And Dr. Gonzalez was there. I don't know if anybody has seen him before speak, but he's an excellent speaker, very animated. He talked about the Constitution, and it was an extremely interesting presentation. I hope he comes to other clubs around and gives that same presentation, extremely informative. Then I had a terrific time on an Allegiant Air flight to South Dakota. I've always wanted to see the faces on Mount Rushmore, and my son said, "Mom, I got 4 days off, you want to go?" And we took the Allegiant plane out of here at about 11 o'clock at night, got there, spent 4 glorious days. The flight was wonderful. The planes are huge and clean, and the people on them are extremely nice. I don't think they knew who I was because I didn't tell them till I got off the plane, and then I handed them a card, and they said, "Thanks for the great ride." But I would absolutely tell anybody, if they want to fly and see that magnificent place, that if they come back and they're flying to South Dakota, they only did it for a short time, to take that flight. It was absolutely terrific. The one thing that sits in my head was the buffalo, the wild buffalo that roam free through the streets and wherever. And right in front of us, all the mamas were taking their babies home for the night, and then Papa Bull came by, and he had a big, huge fight with a much younger one right in back of my car. Talk about terrifying. Boy, they went at it right at the back of the car. Of course, the younger one backed off, the older one did win. But it was a terrific, terrific, absolutely wonderful 4 days, and I would recommend it to anybody and everybody. And that's where I spent my last few weeks. Again, the flight was beautiful, going and coming back. Clean planes, nice people. It was just a very comfortable, nice ride.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, we'll move on to our State Legislation Committee, and that is Commissioner Oliver.
Thank you. I have nothing really to report. The summer in between elections is generally pretty quiet, but I know that we do have further on the agenda some items dealing with the state lobbyist RFP selection, as well as an appropriations request. So I think we'll just discuss those when they come up on the agenda.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I have something I'd like to report.
Sure.
It's the state legislator meeting for Charlotte County has been set for November the 10th, 9 a.m. at the Military Heritage Museum. Just to refresh some memories, back in February of this year, Representative Michael Grant attempted to change the structure of the airport authority without a vote of the people, and that was stopped because of public input. In that meeting, he also said he was going to try to do it again in the November schedule. So, in anticipation that he's probably going to try it again, I don't know if he is or not, other than his statement, he says he was going to do it. We only have 2 airport board meetings left before November the 10th. And I think that of course it's up to the board, that we should establish a resolution, as we have in the past, on what our position is about changing the structure of the airport authority. And we should also, his idea was to do away with districts, increase the number of board members to 7, vote everybody at large, which makes things a little bit easier to stack the board. And I think that we should also encourage other entities, county commissioners, on what position they're going to take. You have to go to city council for a position. And I don't know about the Florida Association of Special Districts, whether they can take a position one way or another. And we also have the Florida Airport Council. But we need to be prepared to discuss this at that
November the 10th?
November the 10th at 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Where again?
It's at the Military Heritage Museum. And if we so draft a resolution, you know, obviously the chairman should be presenting it.
Mr. Hansick, it's a great recommendation. So you've pinpointed a problem. So we only have 2 meetings left, and you've brought up all these good recommendations. How do you recommend we proceed at today's meeting?
I'll have to, I think at this point in time, it would just be direction from this board to our CEO and our council to draft another resolution, as didn't we have one in February?
Correct.
Yes, sir, we did. To update that resolution for the time, and it needs to be somewhat flexible when we see the agenda and exactly what he may propose. He may not propose, he may back off, I don't know.
Mr. Chair, if I might add, I
Yes,
would
ma'am.
hate for this airport commission to make decisions about future resolutions when the timing is not appropriate. There's nothing on the table. There's been no agenda produced. There's been no recommendation. So lest we want to come across as being a little jumpy, a little presumptuous, I think that we should probably wait and see what is proposed before deciding that we are adamantly opposed to everything. I think that it is good to have an open mind and to be open to suggestions that might be good, instead of just being opposed to anything that is potentially a change.
So basically, the comment is we don't know what their agenda is, and so why talk about anything that may or may not be on the agenda?
Exactly.
So what you're talking about, Robert, is just a position on how we feel about the airport, or those future changes, those past changes that were proposed?
I think a couple of comments. Number one, I'm surprised that Mrs. Oliver didn't bring up the fact that this thing has been scheduled. Even though there's no agenda out there, I feel very strongly that he's going to try again, as he's stated in his February Zoom meeting, where some 90 people were on that thing, and I think he's going to do it again. I think we should take a look at that resolution we had before, maybe update for time to make sure that we have something in place. Or if we follow Ms. Oliver's suggestion, just be prepared that we're going to have a special meeting at some point in time to consider this.
I also will add, Mr. Chair, that I think it's highly inappropriate for this board, which is a neutral governing authority, to take a political position as it relates to the method in which we are elected. If we want to have our own opinions and present them, I think that's perfectly fine to do as individuals and as citizens, but I do not think that it is appropriate for us as a board to have a say in how we are or are not elected. I don't think it's right for us to make, have come to a 3-2 vote or a 4-1 vote or a 5-0 vote on something that doesn't affect the airport. It just affects us as commissioners. And politically, it's a political matter. Let's be quite clear about this. It's very much political. So if we want to start delving into political matters, I would highly recommend that we not.
Well, I'm not going to get in an argument, but you're changing the whole structure of the airport authority by any such action like that. And I think that's important.
I didn't know anything
on
about that.
And that's important as how this place is run, which has been very successful. We've got a good board, we've got a good staff. I think we just need to be prepared. Or you're going to see a change.
Was it proposed 2 more people to be elected to the board? From what districts were all?
No, there'd be no districts.
Oh,
It'd be
that's
7 at large is
interesting.
what he alluded to in the
Oh, I
February.
didn't know that.
7 districts, and
I forgot.
they can.
If I may interrupt, again, before we spread misinformation at a public meeting from the dais, let's wait and see what is proposed before start having off-the-record conversations between 2 board members, back and forth.
Excuse me, this is not off the
This
record.
is not appropriate.
This is not off the record.
You're having sidebars. It might be recorded, but it's not appropriate to have sidebars back and forth between 2 commissioners. We should be addressing the chair.
Mr. Chair,
All right.
was that appropriate that I speak my mind and ask a question of the gentleman who, to my side, just made a presentation?
Last comment, and then I'm going to call for a motion on what we're talking here. But go ahead, Kathleen. That'd be perfectly fine. Go right ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying, I did not realize that they were going to be in this proposal that I haven't seen, but I take his word, 2 more people are to be elected at large to this board. And that's what I was questioning him about.
I see. Yeah, and that's fine. And that was past discussion, if I remember
Right.
correctly.
All 7 would be at large.
7 at large, correct.
Yeah,
That was my concern.
I did not see anything related in writing on 7 commissioners
No,
or
I didn't
at-large
either.
commissioners that I recall.
If I might direct, I know Attorney Carr put together some information for us back in, February or so. Maybe let's go back and look at that before just trying to recall all the different iterations. I strongly encourage this board not to spread misinformation. So if you want to discuss what has been proposed in the past, I think that's perfectly fine. But to speculate as to what someone may or may not do in the future and spread mistruths about what that is and what the motivation is, it's not appropriate.
Well, that's probably the trouble with government. You don't anticipate. You just sit back, relax, and let things happen. We don't do that here. We're a business plus a government. Sorry.
Well, I think it would be appropriate. Jim, did you have something to say? Or are you just breathing deep? I would think it'd be appropriate that because of the discussion we've heard today, that we come up with some type of motion that would direct CEO and Attorney Carr to further investigate the situation. We certainly have the airport authority's position on any situation like this, and we've also talked about other agencies that could possibly be involved. Jim, I know, is on a very influential committee, but so I think a motion to direct our CEO and our attorney on how we would like to proceed on this matter would be appropriate, and especially not to simulate misinformation. That would definitely not be the idea behind it. If anything, it would be a clarification move.
Mr. Chair, I will just say my only concern is that this board is being used as a political tool by certain members at this point to wage a campaign. If you have an issue with the way that members are elected, that is absolutely your right as an individual. I don't think it is an appropriate use of this board's time and scarce resources to investigate matters that are political in nature and that are just being used to stifle competition, and it's highly inappropriate. We are here to govern. We are here to vote on budgets and to ensure that the airport is moving in the correct direction. It's policy matters. We're not here to vote in matters that weigh against whether or not we as individuals are reelected.
In your opinion?
In my opinion, correct.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, that's, in my opinion, that's enough discussion. Do we have any type of proposed motion that we'd like to consider as a board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that our CEO and our attorney be prepared to evaluate and draft a resolution if needed that protects the existing structure of the Charlotte County Airport Authority.
Does that appear to be adequate, Attorney Carr?
I believe it's direction to Mr. Parrish and myself to proceed with drafting a resolution is the direction. You're looking for a second to that motion?
Yes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for an approval of a draft motion, or of a motion and a second. Draft resolution, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, I'll vote in favor of that if Mr. Hansick will agree to a friendly amendment to have our attorney first research whether or not our governing documents allow us to move in this direction, whether we have the authority to, if this is part of our structure as a special district, to even make, to even vote on this matter.
So your discussion here is to include that language?
No, is to have our attorney, before he starts investigating, is to research whether our governing documents permit us to use the authority in this manner.
All right. Well, first of all, we don't, it's, we're speculating here what the resolution.
Ms. Oliver has made a motion to try and amend the pending motion.
Okay, thank you.
She's looking for a second to that. Is there anybody that you need to ask if there's a second to her motion?
Okay, is there a second to Commissioner Oliver's recommendation?
It would die for a lack of a second.
Yes, sir.
So now you're back to the vote on the...
Right. So the Commissioner Oliver's motion dies for a lack of a second.
Correct.
So now we're back to the original motion. We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor of the motion as presented, say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you, Commissioners. James, where were we?
Down to attorney's report.
All right, yes. Mr. Carr, attorney's report.
Thank you, Master Chairman. It's been a rather busy month. A number of things are going on. I'm having the pleasure of working with just about every level of staff here, and I have to tell you, they're always most pleasant to work with and most informative. With regard to leasing, we are continuing to work on the Faber lease associated with the build-out of the concession area. That's a large project. My understanding is it's currently under construction, and we're working out the terms of that lease and the payment. We have two large contracts that are currently in works. I've been dealing with staff associated with issues related to the J&L matter. That's the current GA that's under construction, trying to keep that advancing. It seems to be we're advancing, but there's been a number of glitches that we're working through. We've also dealt with Stellar. If you recall, this is on the hangars with regard to the hangar construction. We agreed to abate that contract, mutually agreed to abate that for 90 days. I think we picked a date. Is it November 1st? I don't recall that date.
I believe so.
I believe it's November 1st to defer our issuing the notice of commencement on that, or the notice to proceed. That was agreed to by their bonding company, so we still have the corporation and the bonding company in that process. I was requested to review and did review and work on two policies. One dealt with the self-fueling, which you agreed to, you adopted earlier today, along with an abandoned automobile policy, which we've going to, I don't think we presented that today. I assume that we're still in drafting on that. That may have arisen based on the agenda today. All right, well, you'll come up on the day. We've had to deal with one abandoned vehicle. So the decision was put the policy in place pursuant to the statute. There's a specific statute that deals with abandoned vehicles and abandoned aircraft on the airport. We're gearing up to proceed on two things. One is an abandoned vehicle, which I think has been towed away by now under the statute. That we also have an abandoned aircraft, which we've done about everything we can to get the gentleman to respond. He's failing to do that, so come the end of this month, we're going to proceed with a process associated with that, being very on guard associated with the valuation of the aircraft to make sure that we don't expose ourselves to anything. The major issue that you're about to confront deals with Gulf contours. This has been an issue now for going on 5 years, where I dealt with this gentleman We renegotiated his lease, told him there would be no extensions. If he begged for an extension, we gave him 2 more years. That 2 years is up, that 4-year process is up on August 31st of this month. My understanding is they have made no attempts to move or even begin to move. My understanding is I am directed as of September 1st to proceed with eviction of a holdover tenant for that building. So that will be the next major battle. I'm uncertain of his motivations or what he intends to do, but my understanding is the direction of the board is we are not renewing the lease under any circumstances, and he's been told that repeatedly. Other than that, nothing going on in the legal department.
Thank you, Attorney Carr.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move on then to the CEO's report. Mr. Parrish.
Certainly, you guys get a fairly detailed development report, and I hope everyone has enjoyed reading it. We're continuing to work on a lot of projects. I mean, we are extremely busy right now with not only construction, but bidding and awards, design, and planning for future projects. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. I get a cheat sheet every week, so I understand even more of what's going on, but there's a lot of little things out there, and we're going to proceed on a lot of them this year based on the budget being approved. So, RFQ selection committees. We have 2 RFQs that will be out. One's for the rehab of Taxiway Delta, and then the other will be out shortly for professional engineering services, our general consultant services. We usually pick 2 or 3. I would like to get some feedback from the board as who would like to be, if any, board members on the selection committee for those 2 engineering positions, and we might want to wait for our chair to come back since he's an engineer and likes to talk about that stuff.
Where'd he go?
He had to step out for a second. He's back. So again, we have 2 RFQs going out, one for we met this week for Taxiway Delta Rehab, which is our major FAA project this year, mostly entitlements, and then also just general consulting, professional engineering, and planning services. I would like to know if any board members would like to serve on those selection committees. I waited for you.
Did you? Thank you. Jim, I would be interested in that. Of course, my time is always at a premium, but I've enjoyed, being part of that committee anytime I can. So if...
Yeah, you can only have one.
We can only have one if we can have multiples, you just do it individually.
So you can accept my name, and yes, sir.
All right. Unless anyone else speaks up, I'm going to just let Mr. Hurston review those.
I'd probably do it since I've done it a zillion times.
You want to, Mr. Hurston? Okay.
I've done it too.
So is Mr. Hansick?
Yeah. So we'll do the 2 of you.
Okay.
They'll be individual, and we'll just bring the results back to a meeting for
Excellent.
selection.
Yep.
Marketing update. I'm going to hand that over to Ms. Miller.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. Can you
Good
hear
morning.
me? On the, okay. The last marketing report that's in your agenda was 6 pages, so there's a lot of information to cover 2 months. But I have a few things that I wanted to discuss with y'all here at the board meeting. First is the FDOT project award, which was very exciting when James and the crew was up there at the FAC conference. We got this award, which was very nice. I wish we had a high resolution photo, but unfortunately this is the only one we have. So today is National Aviation Day, so what I'd like to do is get a quick photo of y'all, all the board members holding the plaque, and I'll post it on social media. We'll probably want to put your masks on for the photo. And it was a great thing to get this award. We have a fabulous team. Ron Ridenauer worked really hard on this, as well as Kimley Horn and our team. So it's very exciting to get this project award for the 1533 rehab and extension. So thank you all for that. So make sure you stay for a photo. The next thing is the Minneapolis Service, which is starting October 8th. It was very exciting to get the news that Sun Country is coming here. Back in late April, we announced that news, and they were planning to start December 10th, but then we heard the news that Allegiant is also starting service to Minneapolis October 8th. So Sun Country moved up their service as well to October 8th. So we have Sun Country flying from Minneapolis to several locations in Florida. Our neighbors as well, St. Pete Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, and Fort Myers Airport. So we're going to have a lot of friends from Minneapolis, St. Paul area coming to visit us starting in October. And Allegiant is also flying from MSP here, but they don't have our St. Pete Clearwater is not having that service as well. So there's not quite as much competition for Allegiant here to this coast. But because we have all these flights coming, we want to make sure these flights are as full as possible. So we said, what can we do on a marketing side to help promote these flights and to promote Punta Gorda Airport, because we are competing with the Sun Country flights for Sarasota and Fort Myers. So we're working on a digital campaign to kind of help people in the Minneapolis area think about Punta Gorda Airport instead of maybe RSW or Sarasota or one of the other airports in Florida. So what we're promoting is what makes us different from these other airports. The open air boarding is a cool thing for our friends up north in the winter to come down here and experience that. Also, it's easy and convenient and small and quick, shorter lines. So those are some of the things that we want to promote to our friends up north to choose PGD. So we also partnered with the Tourism Bureau, the VCB, Punta Gorda Englewood Beach, and we split the campaign in half so that half of the ads that people see in the Minneapolis area will be these beautiful ads, which are encouraging people to make up for lost time and to be the Outsiders Welcome Back campaign. So these are already in place. What we've done is we put them in place August through January. And when you click on the ads from the Tourism Bureau, you will see this, you'll go to this landing page on the left, and when you click on our ads, you'll go to this landing page on the right. And when you get to this landing website pages, the folks in Minneapolis, St. Paul will get the links to Sun Country and Allegiant. So we're promoting both airlines. So this campaign is promoting both airlines in that manner. So this campaign will be going on August through January, 6-month campaign. We're targeting the zip codes around MSP Airport, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and there's sophisticated search terms and ways that they, narrow down who they're targeting to based on their travel trends, confidence, what they're looking for, vacations, and we're connecting it with Google Analytics and targeting certain groups in the zip codes, like I said, and the behavior. And we're partnering with Waterman Broadcasting to do this campaign. So it's been working out pretty well so far, but as we complete the campaign, we'll be tracking the metrics and we'll share them with you all, as well as the airlines, to let them know that this has been successful. But it's been successful even in the first couple weeks. It's showing good progress, and we hope that these planes are as full as possible. The next thing we'd like to cover is the General Aviation Center, which we have been talking and planning for so long. And it's a great opportunity, and we're getting ready for that next phase when we're going to be building websites and marketing it and getting the word out about it. So we've been using General Aviation Center as the working name for quite a while now, as you all know, and it's still the name on all our grants and project documents and things like that. But it's a little long. It's got a lot of letters and syllables, and it's a little generic.
A lot of vowels.
What'd you say?
There's a lot of vowels.
A lot of vowels, a big mouthful when you're trying to speak it. And it's not really inclusive of all the center is going to be, used for. So the staff has been working, management has been working, trying to brainstorm a name that's a little bit shorter, sweeter, rolls off the tongue a little bit better, and also is inclusive of everything that's going to be going on there, including the restaurants, event center, conference room, office lease spaces, flight schools, hopefully as well. So the recommended name that we've come up with is the PGD Air Center. And the description would be, it's the 13,000 square foot PGD Air Center will house FBO operations, meeting and event space, a restaurant bar, leasable office suites, pilot lounge, and aircraft parking on a 510,000 square foot ramp and an associated FBO hangar as well. So we came up with a logo that incorporates our PGD imagery of the PGD Fly PGD logo, and also has a new scripty font to give it some, upper class feel, if you will.
Pinky in the air.
Yeah, pinky in there, just to make it a little more fun and new and different. So this is what we came up with, and to incorporate that into our signage at the actual facility, and as in the entryway, there's a monument sign as well. So there'll be a couple large monument signs that are 12 to 16 feet wide, so they're large signs. And we would also have signs over the door as you are arriving in your plane or walking through the door in the front side on both sides of the building. Both entrances would be an overdoor sign that says PGD Air Center. We would just incorporate this logo into the website and basically everywhere we can possibly. That makes sense. And the name is, like we said, short and sweet. We can start putting it on Google listings and promoting it in this manner for our future tenants as well. This is the mock-up of the interior. We're going to work with Michael Baker and get some updated drawings for the interior as we've, make adjustments. But this is kind of a directory of, for example, what it would appear like when you walked into the entranceway, so you knew where things were and you have that feel that you're in the air center and that sense of place of where things are. So just wanted to give you all that update and make sure everyone's on board with this name, and I'll just go ahead and move ahead with signage and things of that manner moving forward. Any comments? Or I can keep going and then come back.
No, I think it looks very good. I like the sign. I like it. The presentation looks good. It's going to be exciting to have all this out there.
Yeah, it definitely will be. Yes, Mr. Hanson.
I agree with Paul. It looks really good. I might suggest you might consider where you say restaurant and bar, maybe restaurant and lounge.
Okay, I like that.
I don't want them to confuse the crew lounge with the other lounge.
Well, maybe they want to.
Hey.
I could see that.
No,
Yeah, you put crew lounge. Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yes, we can definitely fine tune these things. Absolutely, I appreciate that suggestion.
That was just
Right.
I think we want to get any comments on Air Center and the logo before we go wide with it, because we're going to have to get this out there pretty quickly and also start the design of the monument signs that are part of the project.
Do you think the pgd.com one sign you showed is necessary? You've got the monument sign, then you got in the corner.
Oh, okay. So, for example, the flag PGD, that was just for consistency to incorporate our existing logo so people, recall and remember that we're part of the PGD airport.
It was just a thought.
If in limited places when we don't have that much room, because this is a wide sign, we have room for that. But you're right. For example, in the over-door signs, we don't have that.
From it.
Exactly. So it's really just in those full color opportunity to remind people where they are, and that's why we wanted to incorporate that as well, and not forget that that's our main logo as well.
We also have another sign at Challenger, correct?
So the other sign, our new LED sign that's on Viking as you enter the airport, we're going to also have another LED sign similar to that on Challenger. So that will have the opportunity to advertise the tenants that are there, flight schools, whatever's going on, special events and things as well. So that sign is more generic PGD logo. That's how it's designed. But that, we're still a couple months out from installing that, I believe.
Yeah,
We're working on it.
A couple is, yes.
Yes. Oh, yes, go ahead.
No, I was just saying the picture of the interior there with the palm trees looks familiar to me, somewhere in Georgia.
Oh.
I flew into, I don't know if it was St. Simon's Island or when I went to visit my daughter years ago. And I remember walking in there and saying, boy, wouldn't this be nice at our airport? That was my first thought that came into my head. And this looks so familiar. And it really, if it comes out like this, it's really lovely.
Michael Baker did a wonderful job designing
Yeah.
this for us, and we're going to tweak it some. We're adding a little bit more seating, because if you see in this rendering, there's just seating in the middle. We're going to add some more seating in a corner and another TV. And we're also probably changing the plants up a little bit, because we can't have real palm trees, but we would like to have live plants if possible, so we're investigating what type of live plants will make it inside there. So it'll look a little bit different, but I think it is beautiful, and it's going to be really welcoming.
It really was nice, airy, and friendly. It just felt good to be in there. Yeah, I like it.
And we're still investigating some beautiful photography to put in there and as well. So we'll update you on that when we narrow it down on that piece too. So you'll get more updates as we go along. And of course, we'll have a topping off and or grand opening event, so photo opportunities. So as those things, as the construction gets closer to being completed, we'll have a lot more fun opportunities for y'all to be involved and smile, and hopefully maybe you won't have to wear a mask by then.
Mr. Chair?
Kaylee, yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
I just wanted to say wonderful job with all of this. It looks fantastic. I think it's going to be a huge draw for folks. I did have a question about the Sun Country. I love the advertisements for that too. Do we know how our rates are going to be in comparison to our neighboring airports? Because of our low-cost economic model, I would hope that the flights into Punta Gorda are cheaper than they are into Sarasota or Fort Myers.
I did some preliminary research for the Sun Country, because that's the one where there's the neighbors that are competing airports, and they were very close to the Fort Myers and Sarasota rates. It wasn't that different. And then the other thing was each day of the week it was slightly different. Okay. So because they're serving on different days, sometimes they can change their rates based on the day of the week. So I wanted to say we're less expensive in that advertising, but unfortunately, because of the days of the weeks, it wasn't consistent. I couldn't say that outright.
And we've got to be real careful when we say that in an advertising, because there is federal law that regulates what airlines, airports, or they can say about rates, and it is crazy law. So that's one of the reasons we don't, we can say our average rates are $58, but we can't say Sun Country Flying too, because there has to be so many seats available on the day that you say it, and so we don't even go there.
Understood. Just in general, when people are looking for tickets, I would think that is probably their primary consideration.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Sun Country's, the rates that I saw, like the one-way flights were like $85, $95. And I think the Allegiant ones may have been a little bit less, just because their model is different too. But they were both great, affordable rates, so I think we're going to have a lot of visitors from up north in those cities visiting us soon.
Kaylee, two quick things. Could you send out the PDFs of the building? I get asked so much about the General Aviation Center.
They're all available on the website.
Well, right.
You can
So right now,
PDFs of all of this.
The PGD AVX.
I'll do that.
The PGD AVX under General Aviation tab has them now.
Yep.
They all say General Aviation Center, the mouthful.
All right, I'll done.
So what I'll be doing is updating all of those, and then now that we have your consensus in the next month, be updating those to say PGD Air Center and updating the drawings with these drawings. So for now, the building itself is still the same, and those are still online at pgdavx.com.
And number two, the slide, you gave a slide on statistics. It's the slide before that, where you talked about age, male, female. The one before that. The one on the right. Would it not be a good idea if we have Sun Country Airlines and Allegiant basically equally on the line, so it doesn't look like we're...
So the reason is for mobile viewing, when people look on their phones.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't always format the way you...
It formats, right, it could be like this, and then it stacks. That's how it formats.
Well, should we put Allegiant on top? That's all.
I don't
I
know,
guess.
Allegiant is in bold letters. It caught my attention before the Sun Country did.
Well, what we can do is split it up halfway through the campaign and move the other one to the top.
Okay.
So we're being fair.
All right, very good.
But that's interesting that you noticed that.
Yes, and then, Jim, I have one question for you, because it kind of all relates to this, the extension of Challenger. Is that in the works?
So there's, yes, it is, and we could look at it. We have to realign golf course to get it out of the RPZ of runway 1533 at the 15 end. The option would be to extend Challenger and just close golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the prices are going to be about the same. So we are presenting that to the FAA as an option, alternative, and we will have to get answers from them.
And the reason that caught my thought was because we were talking about monument signs.
Mm-hmm. The monument sign that's there now on golf course in Challenger, it says Charlotte County Park of Commerce. And I'm trying to track down who is in charge of letting us, if we wanted to fix that sign up, assuming the road's not going to change or that's not going to change.
Well, that sign is in the right-of-way, and we argued against the county allowing that sign to go in there. I think we will have to go to the county and get permission to at least add our information to the sign.
Well, and that's what I was thinking. I'm trying to find out who that contact would be to get their blessing to go forward and fix it up.
I've been contacted by a couple people from that whole POA association back here in the back,
Okay.
so I can follow through
Yes.
on that and call you, and we may have to lean on Commissioner Deutsch to help us out. He's nodding his head yes, so. All right.
Thank you for your help with that. I appreciate that.
Sure. You're welcome.
All right, I think we just have one more thing, and then I know we have a lot on the agenda, so I'll try to move quick. Is these opportunities for a photo op at the airport. Our low-cost model means, we try not to go crazy with things that we don't need to spend money on, but we want to make it more warm and friendly. So there's a few spots that are not currently used for advertising and may not potentially be used for advertising. So we're looking at them individually. One is an outdoor, out by baggage claim. One is in ticketing as you are getting ready to leave on the plane and depart for your trip back home, potentially. And one is in this corridor where we have our public places. So we're looking at each one of these spots. And the first spot that was easy to tackle was this one on the far right. It has a piece of art that's been moved to ticketing. And this is in the corridor that connects ticketing and baggage claim. And at the other end of baggage claim, is the Flybrary. And along that hallway, there's historical exhibits. And people don't really use this hallway as much. So we want to encourage people to use this hallway more. So we came up with an idea to create a cool photo spot where people could take a photo with their family and hashtag it FlyPGD, something cool. People are still required to wear their masks inside the terminal, so I wouldn't share any of those as the airport unless they had their masks on. But I don't know if you've heard the term SMICE, but you can smile with your eyes. So we'll try to have fun with that, and then hopefully, as the mask mandate hopefully goes away in early 2022, or then the next world of smiling again will be public. So we're getting ready for that. This artist, Larry Palmer, who you see on the right, is the gentleman that's painted some of the art in that hallway. And he's a local artist inspired by Bob Ross. And he's a wonderful man, did this free of charge for us.
Wow.
Yep, I just had to buy the paint for him. And he takes such pride with it, he comes back to do touch-ups. So we're just waiting for Monarch Direct to bring us the sign, the logo, 3D logo sign that we can have posted there, and some plants from our new plant vendor. And then we'll put out a news release and probably do some freebie promotional item giveaways. and try to make it a fun thing for people to check out. Then the next spot is outside of arrivals. So when you arrive in baggage claim and you walk outside and you go to your right, this is kind of a mock-up. The sidewalk in front of the terminal is somewhat narrow, but if you walk out of baggage claim and go to the right, it widens and there's some room in between the walls and baggage claim. I mean, not in baggage claim, the walls in the rental car center and taxi pickup. And so we thought this would be a cool spot to have something where people could stand in front of and take their photos with their families. Right now, the landside agents, staff say, oh, people want us to take pictures all the time out here for them, and there's nowhere cool to take a photo. So our idea is to partner with Punta Gorda Englewood Beach, the VCB, to split the cost of production of something like this. So our favorite, everyone's first favorite in mentioning is the paddleboard one, because I think that one's cool, but the fishing one also has some
little boy, yeah.
some neatness to it. Those black silhouettes would not actually be there. That would be where the people are taking their photos. And for inside the ticketing area, that large wall where there isn't anything now, we're thinking something that has like a bit large postcard or a map of places that you explored and come back for more. So these are just some preliminary ideas to have some color and some ideas of people to encourage them to take a photo so they remember PGD, they remember Punta Gorda Englewood Beach, and then they want to come back. Any thoughts on these? Any favorites?
Are these removable, or are they actually painted
So
on the wall?
this one would be 3D and pretty permanent because of the expense of doing some 3D stuff. This one in ticketing would be probably printed on a large format fabric or banner so that it can be moved. So for operations, if we said we need to put ticketing kiosks or check-in kiosks there, we could move those. So the ones in ticketing will be movable, and the one in out at the exterior will be more permanent.
I've always thought it was a good idea to have, what do they call them, face holes?
Yes.
Where people can, let them have fun with it.
Yes, so that was kind of the idea of this, is you could stand but buy something 3D.
We could use Jim's body for the male figure.
Everybody
It's
does
a
not
modern
want to.
face hole.
Well, Mr. Chair, I really like that. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's really, I think it'll really go well.
I think so, too.
Well,
Good, spectacular. Love it.
As you all know, I'm totally against social media, so Kaylee's been running with this. We do get a lot of hashtags, which are pound signs for all of you that are older than 20. So that, this is, I think it's going to work out great. I nixed this location because you'd have to stand on the road to take the picture.
So we're imagining this is
So
farther
we're
toward
moving
the
it
car.
to a place where you don't get killed taking your picture.
Yeah, the kids.
Yeah, we got to find the right location where people can stand.
The concept's great.
Yeah, the concept, the idea is really good.
One question.
Yes.
Did you have any comment from Babcock about the alligator in front of his name?
The
Alligator by Babcock Ranch.
Yeah.
They are known for their nature, so. I mean,
They
that
are?
is-
It's
yeah.
okay.
Oh, here. Oh, because okay. So the
alligator.
Babcock Ranch ecotourism
Okay.
is that
missed
part that has the panther out there and the alligators and the what is the other big things? The cracker cattle
Yeah, the
and all those fun things.
Cracker cattle?
I think that's what they're called. So that was probably more of that ecotourism side, not the neighborhood part of it. Even though the neighborhood is an advertiser, so they could probably put some solar panels out there too. But
Yeah, we're trying not to advertise
right,
anybody. We're just trying to advertise the area.
right. And we want to make sure that we're coordinating with Lamar, our advertising partner, to make sure that they're comfortable with this and that things are in places that can either be moved if they sell the advertising or they're not in the location where they're currently selling as well. Anything else?
I think that's, any other questions for
Very nice. I
Kaylee?
think it's great.
Yep.
Well, you've done some job.
Okay, good. Well,
Terrific.
we're still fine tuning these, so they'll probably look
Yeah.
different, but we'll keep you in the loop.
Yeah. Terrific job.
Great job, Kaylee. We'll move on then to our aviation report.
I guess he's not here.
Okay.
Go to the next slide. We'll run through it. So as you can see, our traffic for June, July is back above our 19 numbers, well above our 20 numbers. We hope the trend continues. I will be honest, the trend nationwide is trending back down. We're not seeing it as much, and by looking at the graph, we always take a huge hit in September. So October is going to be an interesting month to see how things bounce back. Next slide. This is just avgas sales are slightly up. Nothing spectacular there. We have had a lot of weather, so flying's been a little down, but avgas sales are up some. Next slide. Jet fuel sales again are up from the previous year, but July is not a big month for jet traffic into the area. Next slide. The airlines, though, are flying, and we did pump almost 1 million gallons into Allegiant aircraft this month. Next slide. And that is it, unless you guys have any specific questions on the aviation report. Our passenger traffic is up, and we're continuing to monitor COVID. We did get update from the TSA. They will be extending the mask mandate through January sometime, and we continue to monitor that. And the terminal, we're having very good compliance in the terminal. A few people get upset, but I think with the news lately, less and less are getting upset. They're wearing their masks. Agricultural leases. I just want to talk to the board and get a consensus on whether we want to proceed with ag leases. We do have a grazing lease on the south side of the airport that we've had for many years. There's some advantages to having it. Cows take care of the grass. We have 2 potential leases on the north side on the land we just purchased. One is a grazing lease for part of it, and then the other gentleman wants to plant watermelons. Both are potential positives. They get rid of the watermelons specifically gets rid of a lot of maintenance for airport staff. We're going to have to get in there fairly soon and start clearing invasives. We have a lot of Brazilian peppers and Maluca that are growing in the area. And it is an old orange grove, so it is difficult to mow because of the trenching that's done to keep the orange trees both dry and wet, depending on when you're flooding or not flooding the trenches. So it's not a lot of money. Ag leases are not a lot of money, and they tend to be a source of a lot of work for staff, but there is a good side to it when someone else is maintaining the property. So I just want to know, before I finalize these and bring them to the board, if the board wants to go in that direction.
Sounds good to me.
Jim, a couple questions. Who's responsible for the water use permit? And I'm assuming you'll need a swift mud permit.
The ag user has to have an ag management plan filed with the water management districts, and yet they would be responsible for opening and closing the wells that are currently on the property. We closed all the wells. Well, the previous owner closed all the wells as part of our purchase, and they would have to pay to open them and then close them at the terminus of their lease.
When you talk about it's not much money, what are we talking about? Because the savings is probably in the maintenance.
Savings is in the maintenance. It's $1,000 a year, not per acre, but per the whole thing. It's not a lot of money.
And how many acres? The watermelons, how many acres are we talking?
About 40 acres of watermelons. And we're continuing to do a little research to make sure watermelons are not a prohibited item on airports. So
Sure.
I've got a question in the FAA.
Thank you, sir.
Unless there's a no from the board, I'm going to proceed on that.
40 acres of watermelon?
2 times a year, 40 acres of
Holy
watermelon. So.
mackerel.
What's the yield
That's a
per
lot.
acre, do you know?
No idea. I haven't grown watermelons in a long time.
Wow.
I could just see our watermelon display in the airport terminal. Free watermelons.
It must be a new vitamin thing. Get a watermelon and live to be 100.
I will tell you, our saw palmetto harvesting operation has been going on for the last few weeks, and we're actually going to make money on that this year. It's been a good year for saw palmetto.
And we actually save lives.
Yes, we save lives as well as clean out our thing.
They ought to grow those square watermelons. They're a lot easier to pack.
A lot easier to pick.
Yeah, seriously.
So I'll talk a little bit about the General Aviation Center RFP. We put that out. We did not receive any respondents, which wasn't a real surprise. We are looking at a couple of opportunities there. One is an interesting idea that would require 2 partners. One would be a restaurant operator, as well as the technical college. And we've had some preliminary conversations with them. They do have a culinary arts program where they're teaching both front of the house and back of the house. We would need a restaurateur to operate it, hold the licensing for it. They would provide at least a significant portion of the labor, the cooks. We would want to also partner, and we're meeting with them in a few weeks, with local vendors, Cheney Brothers. Cheney Brothers has a design team that'll design your kitchen for flow. They'll help you produce menus and everything. So it would be it's an interesting idea, a lot of moving parts. And I would like to pursue it for the next couple of months. I think we still have time before we're in a crunch to get the restaurant built out, and see if this is a viable opportunity. I think it'd be a great thing for the community and CTC, an opportunity for them to get some real, true experience operating a restaurant. If all of that falls through, I think the airport is going to have to proceed with the build out of the restaurant and then find a vendor just to operate it. And that was, we've been making some phone calls, and it's the $250,000 layout that is the biggest drawback to a location that's challenged. I think that'll resolve itself as the years progress, but most restaurant operators do not want to put that kind of money into something that doesn't have a lot of traffic. So I'm just telling you where we're going. I'll bring back my recommendation in a few months, unless you guys tell me to put the brakes on the CTC thing.
Mr. Hansick.
Just a question. What does it take to get a liquor license? Because that's going to be an element. And if that's something that's difficult to get, maybe you can get the liquor license, and we offer that as part of the inducement package.
So it is difficult to get because of size, but the airport
can get one.
Well, the airport can get one. The airport had one in the past, and yes, that is one of the things that we're talking to them about, whether we hold the license or they hold the license.
Yeah, because that could be an inducement. Okay, thank you.
I just wonder where do you recruit people to take up this business opportunity? Because I'm thinking New York, they're all screaming and yelling about the rules and regs in New York, and they're closing restaurants left and right, all over the country, actually.
Well, so that's, if we can't go if CTC obviously has to be on board with this, a lot of people have to be on board. If that can't move forward, or we see enough, uphill battles that it's not worth moving forward, we're talking to brokers that would actually go out there and try and find a restaurant, and we would pay them a percentage.
I don't think you'd have a problem with what's happening.
It's difficult. Restaurants are a difficult industry. I wouldn't want to do it, but
is the hurdle capital investment?
The major hurdles got a little less. And that's why we put in 250,000. We did fly up to Ocala and look at their restaurant is about to open. It's a similar size to ours. And they ended up, they were unsuccessful in getting anyone in, so they're putting in the capital.
You're talking $1 million bucks.
No, they put in another 200,000, so they had 250 in there. So about 450,000 to build it out.
Build it out.
So it's not a huge additional expense. I don't think Kaylee and I need to lay out a commercial kitchen, so we would have to get somebody on board. And that's why we're also talking to Cheney Brothers, because that's something they do.
Is that something the banks lend money on, an investment like that?
No, it would be hard because there's no business plan. There's no business, so.
Oh, I got you.
Okay.
I was just going to say, if anybody that's listening, wants to be added to the interest list for if it does, we do go back out again for proposals, they can email me, kmiller@flypgd.com, and I'll keep a list of interested parties for future consideration.
One other, since we've already gone out for proposals, doesn't that put you in a position that you can negotiate a deal if somebody comes in?
We can negotiate a deal, so that's what we're kind of looking at. We're actually talking to all of the people who showed up to the pre-bid, and why didn't you bid, and what are the options to work with you in the future.
Kaylee, how about special advertising as part of our website, just for its location? I mean, just dress up the advertising.
I think that, increasing the reach of advertising the proposal, maybe simplifying the proposal a little bit, possibly using a broker, like James said, would help, as well as now that we've going forward with the Air Center as a name, we can kind of get the splash out there. Once there's more photos of the facility being built, more excitement, more tenants. I think, like James is saying, as things progress a little bit more, people grow interest. This was just kind of an initial throw it out there.
It was really tough to take people out to a lot of sand and get them excited about it. I think once the walls are up, they're going to start flying trusses. I think it'll be a little more real for a lot of people as we move forward. But the food truck program has been very successful, and our advertising on social media and on our website and our sign out front. I mean, I would say it's probably 50-50 users of the airport going to these food trucks and people that just follow the food truck. And they want to get lunch, they drive here, go in short term and for an hour free and get their lunch and leave. So that's been a very successful program, and I think we're full. As long as their trucks don't break down, we're full.
Yes, we have food trucks scheduled for every busy flight day through February as far as the Allegiant schedule goes. We still would like the opportunity to have a breakfast food truck. We thought that'd be cool on busy flight days, but that's something you have to train passengers to get here a little bit early, and that's something we could work out. There could be evening flights that we could do food trucks as well, but for now the lunch schedule is full. And I always encourage people to, grab their food and eat it at the snack shack, which is air conditioned, and we have seating over there, which is nice. And then they can also buy an ice cream treat or something, or some kind of cookie at the snack shack if they're hungry to take with them or eat there. So between the snack shack seating and the food truck, there's a lot of positive feedback from on-site employees as well, from ASM, the TSA screening partner, the Allegiant Worldwide folks, our employees, staff, sheriff's office. People come over from all the surrounding area. So there is a need and an audience for people that want food service. I mean, the food trucks, I think James is saying, has proven that people want food service, and there's no sit-down restaurant in a 3-mile radius. So there will be an audience for this restaurant in the new Air Center. Just got to find the right partner.
I was at the food truck on Monday, and I think there were 10 people from Pulsa Feeder who had walked over. So it's getting a lot of use. That's all for me. If you want to move on to old business.
Yes, sir. We'll move on to old business. Mr. Parrish.
We did get the lobbyist RFPs. The list is in front of you. We have many. The packets are over here. My suggestion is the same as the last lobbyist RFP. The board individually score them and return them prior to September 2nd, and we will get that on our next agenda, unless you want staff to do it.
Any comments? I'm good with the way we have it. It's, commissioners?
I think it's most appropriate for the board to review and score.
Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
2 of us, 3 of us?
All of you?
All of us?
Robert?
Yeah, it's prepared for all of you.
You good?
You're doing it individually, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We can all do it. You got
Yeah.
5 packages.
All right.
Then that's how it was
And
done
then-
last time.
Yeah, and then-
Yeah.
And then just get
Do it.
Amy the score sheet, or just call her and give her your scores, and then
And when did it has to be done by?
September 2nd.
September 2nd.
It's on the sheet.
Oh.
Very good.
All right.
Any further comments?
That's it. If you guys
All
are
right. We'll move on then to new business, 15A, Mrs. Oliver.
Sure, much like our state lobbyist RFP and what I had hoped to do with our accountant, auditor, I think it is time to do a CCAA attorney RFP. Mr. Carr has done a fantastic job for us. I think this is another instance where we must have lost the contract, though, because when I asked for copies of all the contracts that we have for professional services, all I got was a barely 2-page letter just from Attorney Carr thanking the authority for selecting him, but I did not see an actual contract signed by both the authority and the law firm to perform the services. So I think that we need to get that in order to be most compliant. It's very important to have transparency and openness and accountability in government, and by doing this RFP, I think we will achieve that.
James, I think you have a little history on that, don't you?
Well, we've never had a contract with our attorneys. We've always just provided, a fee for work outside of the general agreement, and if we're not happy with them, we can terminate their services.
I got you.
My fear of having a contract with an attorney is it's never going to be written in our favor. But I mean, that's how we've proceeded in the past. I will say for the last 27 years prior to Attorney Carr, we had Attorney Garrard, and then prior to that, we had another attorney for 15 years. It has been the board's policy to hire an attorney and stick with them until such time as we are not happy or they resign or retire. And that's the state of the situation.
Sure. Thank you very much. What's the board's pleasure here? Ms. Oliver?
Well, I'm the one who brought this up, so I think you know. I would make a motion that we ask staff to put out an RFP for CCAA attorney. Again, just like with the lobbyist, it's just good governance. I think it's important. These are lucrative contracts that deserve to go out. It might not be a large percentage of our annual budget, but it's important in the interest of transparency and accountability to put this out for bid. It's good governance. Therefore, I make the motion to direct staff to put out the RFP.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. Do I hear a second? We have a motion by Commissioner Oliver. Do I hear a second? All right, I don't, one final chance for a second. I don't hear anything, so the motion dies. we move on, or does that just kill that, that
We can-
issue?
We can kill that issue.
It kills that issue?
We can move on to the OTA. So we've been working with TSA. They found money, which is always great for the TSA. They have been installing inline baggage systems in smaller airports, and we're well above smaller airport at this point in time, to expedite the handling of checked baggage. We designed this building so that we could do this. The linear bag belt behind the ticket counter can just be extended out the side of the building. That's why we put a door there into a new building, which would be sitting next to it. It's on the left is what was in the master plan, which is similar to what we have now, a non-inline system. On the right is an inline system that would be automated. The bags go through. TSA doesn't have to handle the bags unless it's rejected, and then it goes into a hand screening station and then back out. They are willing to fund 95% of the design. We have contracted with, if you approve, AECom. They are one of the preferred vendors for TSA, as well as one of our consultants. They have done multiples of these. Ray and I went to St. Pete, who just finished theirs. It is interesting. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of structure that needs to be built. So this is just the design, and we would then have to go out for another TSA grant, as well as FAA and PFC in the future to build the structure around it. We'll probably be mirroring this forward so that we could expand hold rooms in the future in the back. This would give us one additional hold room where our current checked baggage system is right away if we built it, and then the potential for multiple new hold rooms in the future. So there's two items that I'm looking for. One is to approve and the OTA, other transaction agreement with TSA, in the amount of $784,000, $784,037.85, and then also approve supplemental agreement number 12 with AECom for $825,303. The difference of those two is in our current PFC program, so it will be paid by PFCs.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. All right. Chair's ready for a motion. Maybe two. Should we have separate motions, you think, Attorney Carr?
We put that at the discretion of Mr. Parrish if we prefer one or two.
Two would be fine. Then if we need to send anything to the TSA, they would have an individual motion.
Makes sense.
Can I just ask that last figure for AECom? What was that, 800? I wasn't quick enough.
It is 825. I think it's on your yellow sheet.
Yeah, 825, 303.
I'm not reading my yellow sheet
Oh,
either.
yeah, all right. Gotcha.
Yeah, there it is up on top.
Thank you. Yes, it is here. 825, 303.
Okay.
And the difference between that and TSA is our share.
Yes, covered by PFCs.
People should be aware of that.
Yeah.
That it's not 800,000 plus 700.
No, that is, the OTA is covering 95% of the 800,000, and we're covering the additional 5% with PFC money, or our money, yes.
Okay, the chair is ready for separate motions.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the agreement for the TSA to fund 95% of the inline baggage system in the amount of whatever it was, 700 and some thousand.
784,037.85.
85 cents.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we hear any further discussion? All right, right, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Second motion.
I'll make a companion motion to approve a contract with AECom in the amount of $825,303 for the design of the inline baggage system.
All right.
Which 95% of that number is being funded by TSA.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
This is going to be common use, the offload to the airplane.
Correct.
If you have two or three, they're just going to have to figure out they're going to have to change their bag tags, or if you have more than two out.
Correct, and that is one of the things that had to happen at St. Pete. That was one of their first stations that had one of these systems. Allegiant had to completely change their bag tags. They're not as specific to the airline, but the barcodes are very specific. So, no, that is something we've already worked with Allegiant, so they know this project. Now, this project is going to go to design this year. It may not get built for multiple years.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to abandoned vehicle policy. Mr. Parrish.
Well, I would like to, since we're talking about TSA, we go through a very extensive, multi-week, difficult, painful audit by TSA every year, where they do everything. They look at every single file. They test our partners at Allegiant, at the FBO. They try and break in. They try and sneak onto airplanes. But the biggest thing they do is they look at every badge file to make sure we have everything in place for our access to the airport. And it's a major process to get this in place and to keep it running. And I just want to recognize Ray and David, who are the two people that are, David specifically on the day-to-day side of running the badging office, and then Ray with working with TSA and security. They did a great job, and I'll tell you, we're one of the few airports that can get through this with no findings. I mean, they generally want to find something, and this is, multi-years we've had no findings. I think that's one of the benefits of stealing TSA people. They know what they're looking for, so want to thank them and just recognize them in public for that.
Very nice. Yeah.
All right, thank you, James.
The abandoned vehicle policy, it seems strange to me that you would drive to the airport and never come back for your car, but it happens.
There are circumstances.
We have 2 or 3 currently, and we have been taking them from our parking lot and putting them in a gravel lot where our maintenance vehicles park at night. It's getting overcrowded, so it's time to have a policy and then a procedure for getting rid of them. So we put this policy together with a lot of consultation with our attorney, and then staff has also put a procedure as how we're going to do it, but first we need to get the policy approved by the board. It would just allow us to remove cars at 60 and 90 days. It would exclude cars with long-term parking permits, and just it gives us, some backing to get them out of here, and then have a tow truck company or tow company come take them away. Let them deal with the process of getting the cars in their name.
Do you try to contact?
Oh, multiple times.
Really? Oh, okay, and nobody answers?
No, we have a very nice F-550 work truck, but because construction companies have been bought and sold, They're not even sure who owns it.
Could we sell them and give the money to the school?
It's a difficult process. Tow companies have someone that does that all day long because they tow a lot of vehicles. That's our recommendation, is we just call one of the tow truck companies that we contract with and then let them take care of that. No, I would like to have the F-550, but it's...
The cost and time and everything
The cost
else is
of having our attorney go through all of that to get a, $5,000 car is not worth it. The other car was repossessed in our lot, but the repossessor didn't even want it.
Oh, jeez.
So,
That's bad.
Do we have an auto school that would take them and work on Votech, maybe? They still have that?
the problem is getting the title, and that's what part of the thing that we don't want to deal with.
There are ways.
Well, thank you, Mr. Parrish. Chair is looking for board approval of the policy.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to board approve the abandoned vehicle policy as presented.
Thank you. Commissioner Andrews, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Kathleen. All right, is there any, we have first and a second, do we have any discussion, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Parrish.
Certainly. The last, we have two.
15D.
15D. I'd like to put together, and we're waiting on the school board to also discuss this. I think they did yesterday. I haven't heard back from Mr. Denisio or Delyn Bennett on it. We would like to put in a joint appropriations request with Charlotte County Schools for the legislature for the next cycle. We're looking at about $3 million, $1.5 million each, for the construction of a permanent facility for CTC's A&P school. They are at their projected or their max capacity of 100 students in this class. They met that. They're currently on campus here as well as on their campus out at Murdoch working. They're going to next semester add an evening course, so they're using it, but at 200 they're maxed out, both in parking and in facilities. So we're looking at taking what was set aside in the master plan for Western Michigan and FGCU to do the same thing, and taking that spot, building a permanent facility for CTC where they would own, maintain, operate the building. We would just do a land lease with them pending legislature approval and having 100% funding. If we do a joint request, there's multiple pots of money that we have that the legislators have to pull from. So it's an interesting idea. It is something that Mr. Albritton is very excited about, and I know Mr. Grant last year it's when governments can work together and get something done for the betterment of the community. So that's my idea. Ms. Miller and I have sat down with the superintendent as well as the principal of the CTC. I don't know what her real title is.
Director.
And they're very excited about the opportunity. They were presenting to their board. I wanted to present it to our board just to make sure that that's something we want to proceed with.
Thank you, Mr. Parrish. Chair is looking for board discussion on the proposal by Mr. Parrish. Any comments? Any nods?
Great.
Go for it.
Now, this is aircraft maintenance plus learning to fly, the commercial.
No, this right now would be, we had two buildings side by side. The one was the flight school one. This is just the mechanics. A&P.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
This is exactly the sort of thing that I was talking about at our previous meeting about using, our board for good for the entire community. I think this is exactly in line with that and supports our mission.
I think it's a good idea, and I support it.
Well, I don't think I need a motion right now, but I will move forward with this and bring it back to you, and then be prior to the legislative delegation meeting, we need to have something put together. And Kaylee and I, Jerry Paul right now and I as well are working on it. If he continues to be our lobbyist, then he'll help us through this.
I would think the other airlines would also be interested in what we're doing here. It's their future too.
The MRO that's looking at building on the airport, this is one of their key things that they want to make sure this is successful so they can be successful. So
we're the
it is, there's a lot of working together, and so we continue to work on that, but this is obviously the first phase. We've got to, the first thing was get CTC lease and get them certified and get them operational, and they have hit all of those goals.
Yeah,
and
that was amazing.
They are having their grand opening, Kaylee, March
17th.
or November, September?
September 17th.
September 17th.
And I've already gotten
Yes,
Ms. Coppola's RSVP and Mr. Hurston. They sent an RSVP card, so you can just send that in the mail or let me know, and I'm on the planning committee, so let me know if you have any questions about it.
All right. So I'll move forward with that, and I'll bring it back to the next meeting and tell you where we are.
Yeah, Mr. Chair?
That's good.
Let's just tag along on Mr. Parrish's comment. With the MRO, the school, moving this forward, I think it's excellent for the airport and the community as well.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Country.
Any further comments for Mr. Parrish?
Great.
All right, James, I'll move on to 15E.
15E. So we bid runway 422 and wetland mitigation phase 2. Just recently, the bids came back, honestly, really well. Significantly less than what our engineer had updated his estimate based on the bids that the FAA has been receiving. So what we're looking for now are two things. The approval to award the contract to Wright Construction Group in the amount of $16,360,000 or $16,360,000, and then authorize me to sign the FAA grant once it's returned, because it's going to have a very short turnaround time because this is the end of the grant cycle. So there's basically there's a grant from the FAA for the runway 422 section of this for $14,418,967. It's 100% FAA money this year. And then the 1.94103.00 is PFC funded, and that is our PFC 2 application, which is already completed. Well, near completion.
That's terrific. That is some terrific accomplishment, yeah, with their faithfulness, too.
All right. The chair is looking for two motions. The first one is related to the runway 422 in the amount of $14,418,967. Would be the first motion we're looking for.
It should include alternate one.
Yeah, so the first motion is for, well, we can do it, for me to sign the grant in the amount of let's just say to sign the grant, because we're still working through some specifics with the FAA. There may be a few dollars that they don't fund, and it's in the last few columns of that, so like $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. So the first motion is to allow me to sign the grant or you to come in and sign the grant when it arrives. It'll just have to be done that day and returned to the FAA.
All right, first motion, execution of the grant by Mr. Parrish.
So moved.
So moved.
Yeah.
Very good. We have a motion of approval.
Second?
We have a second from Commissioner Andrews. Is there any further discussion?
I don't think it's
Hearing
great.
none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously. Motion number 2.
Motion number 2 would be to award the contract to Wright Construction Group in the amount of $16,360,000.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes, sir.
move that we approve the awarding Wright Construction Group the amount of $14,418,960.
Nope, not the 16 million.
Or si-
16 million,
16 mi-
360.
Sorry. 16 million,
$360,000.
$360,000. Let's see this. Oh, $16,360,000.
Yes. All right, we have a motion of approval of the $16,360,000 contract to Wright Construction. Do we have a second? All right, we have a second. Is there any further discussion?
Just, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Wright Construction, have you had experience with them, or?
They built the expansion of the commercial ramp a few years ago when we added 3 more spots.
Where are they at? Anybody know?
I thought Fort Myers.
Yeah, I think they're a Fort Myers.
They got Fort Myers. Just curious.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously.
And that is it.
That is it for Mr. Parrish. All right, we'll start off with item 16, Commissioner comments. We'll start down here on the left with Commissioner Capola.
I just think this has been an amazing meeting. We've spent a lot of money, and we're going to do a lot of construction, and we're just, I think, the best in the country. And so does my microphone. So I'm just happy that all things have come to this fruition. This is great. We're just getting bigger and better and more important.
When you said we were the best in the country, the minute you said best, that's when we received some type of electronic
Yes.
frequency
Yes.
coming in. So, yeah, there you go.
Some divine intervention here.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Hanson.
I don't have any.
No comments?
No. I've said enough.
With all that wisdom? Mr. Andrews.
You're out of wisdom.
I'd just like to say, great meeting. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and I think these are some exciting times as we move forward.
Thank you, sir.
A lot of good things going to continue to happen on the airport.
Commissioner Oliver.
Sure, thank you. I'm just going to remind everyone of our governing legislation, Section 3 of 2011-263, the laws of Florida, created by the state legislature of Florida. Authority, creation, and purpose. For the purpose of performing such acts as shall be necessary for the management, operation, maintenance, planning, and development of the airports, commerce parks, facilities, or real estate owned, operated, or managed by the Charlotte County Airport Authority, there is hereby created the Charlotte County Airport Authority. Nowhere in that purpose does it authorize us to expend public resources, staff and attorney time and resources to promote legislation or oppose legislation that only affects us individually as commissioners. I think that by this board voting today to direct our attorney and CEO to look into matters involving our own personal political futures, I think that that is a misuse of public funds. If you disagree with legislation being proposed by the legislators, pardon me, then you should join a group, lobby, fundraise against a proposal. But you don't get to use public resources for your own personal political gain. And I think that that is what this board voted to do today, and I'm very concerned about that. I don't think it's ethically correct. And it doesn't affect whether or not I'm here, any other commissioner is here. It does not affect this airport. It affects me it affects, supporters or opponents, but it doesn't affect the good or bad of this airport. It's not related to the management, operation, maintenance, planning, development of this airport, and that's what we're authorized to do here. We're not authorized to use this board and public resources on behalf of our own political futures. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that being said, Mr. Miller, it's always good to see you. There you are in the audience. And Commissioner Deutsch, always great to see you. Also, Dr. Pitts, good to see you back. And we got a couple of our engineering firms in the audience. I know we got Mark and Steve, and I think we got a representative from Kimley Horn, I believe. Home Montez. Beautiful. Thank you, sir. And just be...
Michael Baker's back there.
Michael Baker? Yep.
We got all.
Oh, yeah, we got them all. We got all the best guys in the state right now.
We might be passing out checks today, I don't know.
It could be. It could be. We'll have to ask Sandy. With that being said, our next meeting is scheduled for the 16th of September. And with that being said, this meeting is adjourned.